The eastern bluebird is a bird that many people are familiar with. Chances are, if you live in the eastern United States, you've probably seen one perched on a power line or fence post, or maybe you've even come across a nest full of blue eggs in your own backyard. Eastern bluebirds can be recognized by their distinctive blue and orange coloring, which appears slightly duller in females. Their melodic song is a welcome sign of springtime in many bird lovers' backyards, and they've been a symbol of happiness in North America for decades, making appearances in songs and television.
Zippity-yay, Mr. Bluebird's on my shoulder. It's the truth. It's actual. Everything is satisfactual. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.
Bluebirds are secondary cavity nesters, which means that they build their nests in the hollowed-out cavities of dead trees, but they are unable to create this cavity on their own. Instead, they rely on other cavity nesters such as woodpeckers to create new cavities every year. After a male locates a potential nesting site, he will place a few pieces of material in the cavity and begin calling out to attract a female. If a female approves of his nesting site, she will finish building the nest and the pair will mate, producing 3 to 7 small blue eggs. After an incubation period of about 2 weeks, the eggs hatch and both parents will continuously feed the hatchlings until they're ready to fledge, or fly the nest. The process of raising these hatchlings typically takes about 15 to 20 days, and the pair can complete this process 2 to 3 times a year during the spring and summer months. Now, bluebirds feed primarily on insects and need open spaces to locate their prey. They will commonly build their nests on the edges of pastures, fields, or yards where they can perch on trees and fences until they spot an insect, and then they will abruptly swoop down to catch them. Their dependence on open habitat for locating insects means that they, like many other species, have been affected by human development in the past. But unlike many species facing habitat loss in the wake of human activity, eastern bluebird populations have actually benefited from certain landscape changes throughout American history. As human settlers expanded westward into North America, the transformation of forests into fields and residential areas, along with the introduction of fruit tree orchards and former grasslands, provided new, perfectly suited bluebird habitat, and as a result the bluebird population expanded, following in the wake of human development. But as landscape techniques evolved, lawns and fields became manicured. When trees died, they were cut down and removed. Old wooden fence posts that many cavity nesters used as homes were replaced with new metal ones, and suddenly the bluebird was facing a shortage of places to nest in. In addition to the decreasing number of nesting sites, the bluebirds faced a brand new set of challenges: direct competition from 2 invasive species brought over from Europe, the house sparrow and the European starling. Both of these invasive species were also cavity nesters and are more aggressive than the bluebird, and quickly pushed them out of many remaining nesting habitats. Populations declined throughout the mid-1900s, and by the 1970s, the bluebird had become a rare sight, with many backyard birdwatchers fearing extinction of their beloved bluebird. In 1978, concerned citizens formed the North American Bluebird Society. They developed a network of trails lined with wooden nest boxes made especially for the bluebird. Volunteers monitored these nest boxes, and they couldn't have hoped for better results, as populations began to rise again, and the bluebird returned to backyards. Thanks to the efforts of the North American Bluebird Society, we know that the bluebirds will return to an area when they are provided with a place to build their nests. But to what extent can they coexist with humans in a human-dominated landscape? Can they survive in places where humans have totally removed natural nesting habitats? To test this question, we conducted a study on the Gainesville campus of the University of North Georgia. We constructed approximately 20 of our own nest boxes with dimensions ideal for an eastern bluebird. We placed 12 of these boxes around the main center of campus, where foot traffic is heavy during times of class change and human contact is relatively constant throughout a normal school day. The remaining 8 boxes were placed further from the center of campus activity, near the edge of the forest that borders an open field and pond on the edge of campus. Human encounters are less frequent here and mostly consist of trail walkers and joggers and the occasional passing student. During the spring semester of 2017, the boxes were closely monitored and the contents of each box were checked once a week for Bluebird activity. Information including nests being built, eggs laid, eggs hatched, and the number of young that successfully fledged the nest was recorded for each box throughout the nesting season. In addition to monitoring the contents inside of each box, the human activity around the nest boxes was observed to see if any connections could be made between the number of people walking by a box throughout the day and the success of that nest box. To get an idea of the human interaction that bluebirds would face at each location, we counted the number of people that walked by each box for 15 minutes during a time when classes were in session and for 15 minutes during a time of class change on 2 separate days. These counts were averaged together in order to get an idea of how much foot traffic each nest box was experiencing. We also measured the distances from each nest box to the nearest building, road, parking lot, and sidewalk or walking trail to see if close proximity to man-made structures would decrease the chance of bluebirds choosing to nest in a box. In the group of 12 boxes located near the center of campus, eggs were laid in 5 of the 12 boxes. Box 1 had 9 total fledglings leave the nest, Box 4 had 7, Box 9 had 5, and Box 12 had 3 total fledglings leave the nest. Box 2 had 1 nesting attempt with 5 eggs laid and 2 hatched, but the nest was abandoned before the hatchlings fledged, presumably because the tree directly beside the box was a favorite spot for students to hang a hammock. Boxes 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11 remained empty throughout the season, with no attempts made to build a nest. In the group of 8 boxes located by the field and pond on the edge of campus, nests were built and eggs were laid in all of the boxes except for one, number 18. Interestingly, box number 20 was inhabited not by an eastern bluebird, but instead by a pair of brown-headed nuthatches who successfully raised 5 fledglings. Box 13 had 9 total bluebird fledglings leave the nest, and box 16 had 5. Boxes 14, 15, 17, and 19 did not have any successful fledglings, possibly due to predation and competition with fire ants. With the human data that we collected, we were able to make some conclusions about why some nest boxes might have been more successful than others. Box 11, for example, is located directly beside the campus library and has an average of 126 people walking by every 30 minutes, making it an unlikely choice for a pair of bluebirds trying to protect their young. Boxes 5, 7, 8, and 10 also had high foot traffic in the area, with anywhere from 44 to 98 people walking by every half hour. Boxes 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11 are all less than 10 meters away from main sidewalks within the campus. Overall, the project was successful. In the center of a college campus where no natural bluebird nesting habitat is present, 24 bluebirds were raised to adulthood. Closer to the edge of campus, there were 19 fledglings raised to adulthood, for a grand total of 43 eastern bluebirds that were raised within the borders of a college campus. With this project, we can see that it is possible to incorporate wildlife habitat into areas that have been developed by man. Even though landscapes are changing to make room for houses, offices, and schools, with a little effort and consideration for the local wildlife, such as the bluebird, habitats can still be provided and new generations can call this land their home.